3 months ago, almost to the T, I reviewed Crooked House because I couldn't review Murder on the Orient Express, which had just released then. But now it has released on digital, which means I can watch it. So here's the review of Murder on the Orient Express. Murder on the Orient Express is one of Agatha Christie's most famous tales, and I wish I could tell you who's in this movie, but that would take forever because the cast is amazing. There's just so many noticeable faces. They're right for the roles. If you don't know the plot, it's about a murder that takes place on a train called the Orient Express. The world's greatest detective has to figure it out. No, not Sherlock Holmes, though he might as well be because he acts very similar to how Sherlock Holmes sees the world as well as solves crimes. So let's get into it. First off is the people category, which goes over the acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry, all of which gets perfect scores. This is a very people-centric movie as it's dealing with a murder mystery and a whodunit, so in order to find out not only whodunit, but the importance and emotional connection you have with the movie really relies on the characters. It is acted really well from everybody's parts, and they all have a different role to play. You really like who's in it. They're all recognizable, and they all do a great job. 10 out of 10 possible stars. The writing category goes over the dialogue, the balance of the film, the depth of the actual story, how original it is, and how interesting it is. All of which gets perfect points except for the balance of the film and how interesting it overall is. Because there is so many characters that you have to dive into, it starts to feel like it drags along. You have to really get involved with who everybody is and why they may or may not have done it. So the movie starts to feel a little bit longer than it actually is when you start doing that, which results in the movie feeling like it's not as interesting as it possibly could be. Everything else is great as a mystery. It has a lot to do with dialogue. The depth of the story kind of goes into why the killer did what they did, which would be a spoiler, but it is definitely good. It is original to me. I've never actually seen or heard too much about Murder on the Orient Express. I saw it mostly with a blind eye, and I was glad I did. It feels original and fresh. So all in all, the writing category gets 8 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we look at the BTS category, which looks over the visuals, the directing, the editing, the advertisement, and the music and sound. All of which gets perfect points except for the music and sound. I think the music and sound was pretty good, actually, but nothing I would really care to listen to again. So that gets half points. Everything else is pretty darn good. The visuals, while it's not like a CGI heavy movie or anything like that, it feels classic. It feels like it was not shot in recent years. It feels older. So the visuals look great. It was directed really well. It's all edited together really well, and it is as advertised. So the BTS category gets 9 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we look at the narrative arc, which goes over the introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and falling action, all of which gets perfect score except for falling action. Obviously, I can't talk too much about that because it would be spoiling the movie. Everything else is great. The introduction gets you acquainted with pretty much all of the characters. The inciting incident is when there's the murder on the actual train, which changes things up. The obstacles is trying to figure out who done it. The climax is, figure out who done it. The narrative arc gets 9 out of 10 possible stars. The entertainment category goes over how rewatchable it is, how much of a good time you have while watching, the impulse to buy, the impulse to talk about, and if it sucks the audience in. I think for the most part, this is a decently entertaining movie, but not overwhelming in the fact that, oh my gosh, my jaw is dropped on the floor. It's just, it is what it is. So I would rewatch it, but not in the case where I would go out and try to find it. If I randomly came upon it, I would probably watch it again, so that gets half points. I did have a good time while watching in general, so that gets full points. I have zero impulse to buy it or own it in any ways. I wouldn't mind talking about it, but I don't think I'll be rushing off to somebody saying you have to see this movie. So there is discussion points, but that's just about it, so that gets half points. And if it sucks the audience in, I think for certain elements it does, and for certain elements, like I said, it feels like it drags on, so parts of it doesn't, so that gets half points. The entertainment category gets 5 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we look at the specialty category, and this goes over a few different things that I wanted to know before I saw the movie. First and foremost, this is a mystery film, so how's the actual mystery? It is a very good and interesting mystery that I couldn't really guess while watching, which is awesome. So a mystery on its own, very well done, so that gets 10 out of 10 possible stars. As a drama, I do believe that there are some dramatic elements and some emotional things that you wouldn't really expect from the get-go, so that it gets 10 out of 10 possible stars as well. As an Agatha Christie story, I do believe she is famous for it for a good reason. I think that it was well developed and well put together. 10 out of 10 for that. As an adaptation, I think that they were true to the adaptation, even though I didn't read it. However, they were true to a fault, which is, I think, part of the reason why it kind of felt like it kept on dragging on, because they had to investigate everything and talk to everybody, and it starts to feel like it drags on a little bit there. True to the story, to a fault, and that gets half points, 5 out of 10 possible stars. Is it halfway decent? I think for the most part they made the movie that they wanted to make. 10 out of 10 possible stars. If we add up everything, we get 86 out of 100 possible stars, 86%, which means it's a pretty darn good movie. Guys, tell me what you thought of Murder on the Orient Express in the comments down below, and on YouTube you can subscribe me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review, which should be tomorrow, so stick around for that, and until then guys, peace out.